Something old, something new, something borrowed, and something owed.
It's a lot of money.
In the ballpark of $50,000. 5 couples thought they'd be getting married this year at a winery in Yamhill County. Obviously, COVID-19 had some other plans. Now, why they can't seem to get their money back.
It's a hit, for sure, and it's disheartening.
A day into Oregon's special session. How some leaders today are trying to make it harder for cops to get away with breaking the rules. And we asked, and he delivered. It all started with a road trip 25 years ago. Now, his collection is to infinity
and beyond.
Here's the story.
You got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Dan Haggerty. Welcome to the story. I want to start tonight by singing, obviously, sorry about that, but also for thanking the loyal fan base, the people who, they keep growing every single night, but I will say the people who write in every night, make sure that we're doing our job and covering your city the way that you deserve. You've been with us since the beginning, I mean, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, on Facebook and Instagram, email and Twitter with the hashtag #HeyDan. Do you have the rings? Good, because I want to start tonight by talking about weddings. Happiest day of my life, honestly. I mean, that's the goal, right? Well, you know, until a little global pandemic decides to crash the party. Unfortunately, COVID-19 loves a good wedding weekend. And when it comes to attendance, bigger the better. Large groups of people traveling from all over the country to be together, dancing, eating, and potentially spreading a deadly virus. Kristen Severance talked with some couples all set to tie the knot in Oregon's wine country before this whole mess happened, but they decided to postpone. And it turns out making that call only created more problems.
Yamhill County, Oregon is home to 80 wineries and 200 vineyards, the spot where 5 couples we interviewed thought they'd be getting married in 2020. But like so many things, COVID-19 ruined their plans. And they say the venue, Youngberg Hill Inn and Winery, has not made things any easier.
All right, everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Let's start with how much money each couple is out right now. If you could please just hold up your sign.
5 couples from all over the country out more than $50,000.
Wow, okay.
They all connected on social media. All had very similar experiences with the family-owned winery and site manager Nicolette Bailey.
So it was really, I think, affirming for all of us to get together and just recognize that we're not alone and we're not crazy.
They contacted KGW after weeks or months of back and forth emails with Youngberg Hill. No agreement on refunds or partial refunds. They said they weren't able to move the wedding to next year without paying thousands more, or they were told they canceled the wedding when they didn't. Hillary and Halsey live in San Antonio, Texas. They were supposed to get married in August.
We just can't have our wedding per the contracted amount of people and the guests. Not to mention, we want all of our guests and family to be safe. And we're just not able to do that this coming August.
Allie and Alec just moved to Oklahoma. They were supposed to get married there May 30th, when Yamhill County was in Phase 1. That meant no large gatherings over 25 people. They said moving it to the same day in 2021 would have cost an additional $8,400.
And there's so many people who are being so amazing throughout all of this. That it's just like, it really makes me sad to realize that there are people out there who are taking advantage of it, specifically for like financial motivation.
Jasmine and Patrick live in Portland. They had a wedding scheduled at Youngberg at the end of July.
It's a lot of money. I mean, we're currently living with his parents to save up money for, you know, the wedding itself as well as a house. So to be out that amount of money is, you know, it's a hit for sure. And it's disheartening.
Dawn Holden's stepdaughter was also supposed to get married in July. She's been acting as the liaison between the couple and Nicolette.
Of course, they would love to get married July 31st. Don't get me wrong. But with just knowing it's the risk doesn't outweigh the reward.
And Michaela and her fiancé Mark were set to say I do at the end of August. But with her guests having to fly from the East Coast, she said she felt pressured to cancel.
And there was really no awareness of it. Very, very aloof. And she said, you know, she gave us absolutely no option to reschedule for next year.
Nicolette Bailey would not do an interview, but she did say in an email, in part, "We have been and will continue to be as flexible as possible regarding our cancellation and postponement policies. We have also extended our postponement options to anyone who doesn't feel comfortable having a wedding this year, even though we can do their event. We are currently hosting weddings and events and following all the ordinances, CDC and OHA guidelines. We are fortunate that our event space is over 12,000 square feet, so there is a lot of space to be safe and socially distance." Yamhill County is now in Phase 2. According to state rules, indoor and outdoor venues with 6 feet of physical distancing and other measures in place can reach a COVID-19 occupancy limit of 250. However, OSHA received a safety complaint about Youngberg Hill June 17th, saying the venue is not following the guidelines by having more than 250 guests at one time. The complaint is still open, and OSHA could not give us any additional details. As for the couples, they hope they can work something out with the winery.
If this is the worst thing that happens to us and our family, with all the health and economic issues that could occur this year, if this is the worst, I'll count my blessings. But this wrong thing is still wrong regardless of that, and should be made right.
Yeah, stressful, no doubt. Kristen Severance joining us now. And Kristen, I really feel for these couples. I think everybody does. But I'm also thinking about the business, all right? These are really tough times. They need to make money.
Right. And I think being in the event industry would not be easy right now, certainly. And I also, before we go, Dan, I wanted to point out that I reached out again about that OSHA complaint. And Nicolette said, look, based on our event site, we are approved to host the 250 guests. She said we follow all state ordinances and, they're in compliance with CDC and OHA guidelines. And she said, we require customers to follow all laws and ordinances when renting the property. And she says it's up to the customer to be responsible for the individual design or layout decisions.
Got it.
So she's putting, some of it on the customers.
Yeah, they provide the venue. The customers are responsible for keeping their guests safe. Understood.
Right.
Kristen, thank you.
You bet.
All right, we are going back to Salem for the big story tonight. Oregon's special session focused on police violence and COVID-19. Today, a committee met to hear public testimony about a number of bills, including several aimed at reforming police departments in Oregon. And to say things started powerfully would be an understatement.
Madam Speaker and members of the committee, this is Monty Jarvis, Multnomah County resident. I'm 53, I'm white, and I'm a racist. I've been in denial, silent, and submissive to white privilege all my life, much like most of my white friends and family and colleagues and acquaintances.
So that kind of set the tone for the rest of the discussion, which was predominantly focused on proposed bills aimed at police tactics and preventing violence against people of color. And tonight, we want to focus on Senate Bill 1604, which addresses outside arbitrators. See, if a police department ever punishes an officer for misconduct, it is an arbitrator who has the power to reduce that punishment or reverse it entirely. It's a third party brought in to make a call, and they often reverse a police department's decision to punish or fire an officer for misconduct. But SB 1604 could change that. And we were recently reminded of what it looks like when arbitrators make questionable judgments. The Associated Press published this story this week. It looked at hundreds of cases across the country where this has happened, including one right here in Portland that we actually just talked about here on the story. Police killed 25-year-old Aaron Campbell on January 29, 2010, after his aunt called 911, saying that her nephew was suicidal over the death of his younger brother. That was just last week. Now, here's how the story goes. Campbell came out of his home with his back toward officers and his hands up behind his head. An officer shot him with a beanbag round, and he kind of ducked and ran off. That's when Officer Ron Frazier of the Portland Police Bureau shot Campbell in the back with a bullet, with an AR-15, and it killed him. Frazier said that he thought Campbell was reaching for a gun, but he wasn't, because he didn't have one. Now, in the end, a grand jury didn't charge Frazier, but the police bureau still fired him. However, the Portland Police Union appealed his firing to an arbitrator, and the arbitrator sided with Frazier. They said it was reasonable to think that Campbell might have had a gun, and the arbitrator ordered the city to rehire Frazier. Now, the city appealed that order to the Oregon Court of Appeals, but in 2015, the court ruled that the bureau had to reinstate him. Now that brings us back to the special session. This week, lawmakers hope to pass a series of police reform bills, including one that could limit some of the power of these arbitrators. I talked about this bill and other police reforms with Oregon House Judiciary Chairwoman Janelle Bynum before this special session started. She also sits on the People of Color Caucus and was in today's session in Salem, complete with some amazing cardboard cutouts of Yoda and DJ Khaled behind her and Shuri from Black Panther. As a fellow Marvel fanatic, I completely approve of the decor, though I have a lot of questions. Honestly, I just don't have time to ask them right now. Meanwhile, in my discussion with Representative Bynum, she mentioned officers often receive payouts to avoid a court battle over their termination.
What was appalling to me was sometimes it's cheaper to do a settlement than it is to try and relieve someone of their duties. And that to me feels wrong. The public is paying for that. The public doesn't have any trust in that person. And oh, by the way, the other cops on the force don't like a bad cop either. So it makes no sense to me why we keep spinning our wheels on this. It makes no sense.
And we have seen this exact scenario play out in Portland fairly recently. In 2017, Police Sergeant Greg Lewis was fired for reportedly telling other officers, if you come across a black person, just shoot them. This was just a few days after Portland police shot and killed a black teenager named Quantus Hayes. And just like Frazier, Lewis appealed his firing to an arbitrator. But instead of the arbitrator ordering that the police bureau reinstate Lewis, the city instead went ahead and gave him a $100,000 settlement to retire. During today's hearing, members of the community were allowed to speak. A member of the Oregon Fraternal Order of Police broadly took issue with the language in some of the police bills, while State Senator James Manning Jr. called in to say that they don't go far enough. Now, we're going to play some of those remarks for you now. You're going to hear from police first, then Senator Manning. Listen here.
I want to stress our willingness to be part of the ongoing discussion that needs to occur. On behalf of the Oregon FOP, I've reached out to multiple members of the legislature about the Oregon FOP's willingness to confront the issues that need to be confronted in that state and work on continuing to make Oregon's law enforcement amongst the most ethical and professional in the state of Oregon. I am concerned about the lack of response to that, about our willingness. And it makes me wonder if we are doing the right thing by rushing through.
These bills are but a start. They are accountability bills. I agree with some of the speakers. They do not go far enough. I think that some of them are watered down, and we need to revisit a number of those. We need to do more. I'm looking forward to working in a work group when we move forward. Madam Co-Chair, Mr. President, thank you for your time. This is a good bill, should pass.
So this is where the conversation is right now. Now, Portland's very own police union has resisted some early decisions by Mayor Wheeler to reform or even defund police, like, for instance, removing student resource officers from school. But City Council is full steam ahead on discussions around SB 1604. They released a statement saying, in part, we want to thank members of the POC caucus for their support over the last 2 years for police accountability through the arbitration process. This bill is a critical piece of much broader and needed reforms. Now, we expect to vote on the arbitration bill maybe as early as tonight, although our lawmakers do tend to complicate things from time to time. Either way, we're going to keep our eye on it, and we'll let you know when we know more.
1992 was a simpler time.
I like big butts and I cannot lie.
We were all blasting that through our Walkmans. Batman Returns was the #1 movie in America.
Meow.
And the Trailblazers had their own song. Oh, and we were in the finals. Unfortunately, it was against the '92 Bulls. If you don't know how that ended, well, we're going to take a trip into the KGW vault for a sad walk down memory lane when the story continues.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Thank you for writing in and commenting and asking us questions using that hashtag #HeyDan or emailing us at thestory@kgw.com. As I've been saying, so many comments and emails and all the correspondence we've been getting have been about wearing masks. And obviously, it's required now in 7 Oregon counties and tomorrow across the entire state of Washington. So with that in mind, I want to read this tweet from George Morris. He wrote, as a nurse, it was amazing to see everyone cheering us on and calling us heroes. But Everyone can be a hero right now by wearing a mask. We need more heroes. Wear a mask. So hey, don't take it from me. Take it from Nurse George. Wear a mask. Thank you, George. Hey, I was wondering what you might remember about the year 1992, or even if you were alive. I mean, we have a lot of younger viewers. I was, well, frankly, it's none of your business how old I was, but I can't tell you that Clinton had just been elected. Barcelona was hosting the Olympics. Microsoft released Windows 3.1. Am I jarring your memory? The Blazers made it to the finals for the second time in 3 years. Though there is some bad news, it was also against Michael Jordan's Chicago Bulls. I know a lot of you probably watched The Last Dance, that ESPN documentary about Michael, but we figured that Portlanders deserve to see that story from Rip City's perspective. So we're going back into the KGW vault with the help of Nina Melhoff.
1992. It was the time of Walkmans and bum equipment clothes and hammer pants. Dudes rocked Cosby sweaters, little did we know. Newscasts looked like this. Look, there's Brenda. Technology was primitive. Better put those antennas up, kids. But boy, was it a good time to be a Trailblazer fan. Signs in every edition of the Oregonian. And this hot jam was rockin' local radio. Yes, Rip City had its own song. Senator Cliff Robinson, his own dance.
What do you call that little dance you guys are doing out there? What is that?
It's the, you want?
Yeah, I'd like to.
It's the Uncle Cliffy. Now you put that on the news tonight now, because I told him that I was gonna do it tonight after we won, so there it is.
It's gonna be the rage. Everyone's gonna do it.
We love it.
The Blazers had just beat the Jazz to go to the NBA Finals, taking on the dreaded Bulls and Michael Jordan. Yes, even then we knew it was a long shot. Jordan had just won his first championship the year before. But we had Clyde the Glide Drexler, Jerome Kersey, Kevin Duckworth, Buck Williams, Terry Porter, and Uncle Cliffy, and we're making a run for it. Today, the Moda Center fits nearly 20,000. 1992's Coliseum, just 12,000 seats, every one precious.
Today's Oregonian carries a dozen or so ads offering tickets for sale. We even got an ad faxed to us here at the station. 2 tickets, section 25, 12 rows back, sold to the highest bidder.
Front row seats went for $1,000.
The nosebleed section normally goes for $9.50. Today, at places like Premier Tickets Northwest, you couldn't touch a finals ticket anywhere in the Coliseum for less than $200.
Portland Mayor Bud Clark and Chicago's mayor cared to make it interesting with a little bet.
If the Trailblazers should lose, Portland sends Chicago Pacific Coast salmon, Tillamook cheese, and Oregon wine.
The Oregon wines are the best.
But if the Blazers prevail, Chicago gives up its finest ribs and pizza,
Nice and messy.
Italian ices, and Gatorade, a Michael Jordan favorite.
They got the better deal.
Well, they are known for their pizza, and pizza's full of sausage, and so are the Bulls, so let's leave it at that.
Okay. Well, game 1 was uglier than sausage, though. Jordan buried the Blazers by 33 points, and it was shaking up the red-hot 90s trading card world.
But this man hasn't proven as popular in Portland's sports card stores as of late. It isn't just that Michael Jordan's cards are so expensive, it's that Blazer fans are sort of mad at him.
People are unhappy because he's playing too well.
But game 2 was all ours. It would go like this, back and forth, till game 6 when it was do or die. A Portland cabbie,
but when it's game time, Dawson settles in for the action.
Made famous for pulling over downtown to watch on a transistor TV.
Might as well just relax. It's going to be a long game.
Win or lose, you know Dawson will be there next time for the Blazers.
After losing Game 5, the team returned to Chicago, and the TV cliches ran thick and fast.
This is a team that has its back to the wall, all right, but what's worse is they're being offered a blindfold and a cigarette. There's a fat lady out there somewhere loosening up her vocal cords, and there's probably a bunch of buzzards circling their hotel. Make no mistake, the Blazers are a team on the brink of extinction.
You know, let our play be strong, and I think getting back home, getting back in the familiar surroundings is something that we're looking forward to, but I think it's something that we have to concentrate on, not to get too comfortable.
The man is unstoppable, and the Blazers know it.
This is the first time that I've really seen him night in and night out, and I can really say that, he's a special player. He's a real special player. He makes his teammates better.
No team has ever come back from a 3-2 deficit by winning the final 2 games on the road. Of course, the Blazers would love to make history starting tomorrow. In Chicago, Eric Johnson for News 8 Sports.
7 games would obviously please the folks at NBC, but even they seem to be aware of how hard that might be on some of us emotionally.
Be willing to accept the outcome.
Game 6 was hard fought. It came down to 4 points, but Jordan cemented his legacy.
The Chicago Bulls have won the NBA championship for the 2nd straight season.
In true Rip City fashion, the city was behind this team all the way and was fiercely proud of everything they accomplished.
We knew no matter what we did, they were going to be behind us. This is incredible. This is a real sign of affection and support, and we really appreciate it.
There were no speeches, no autographs, only a wave or two. But it was enough for these faithful, fans appreciative of a classy ride through the NBA playoffs. Carl Click, News 8.
Nice. Love the vault. Thanks to Nina Melhoff and our Sunrise team for putting that together. We're always looking for excuses to dive into the KGW vault. We got videos and pictures, honestly, going back decades in Portland's history. So hit us up. Use that hashtag HeyDan. Send us an email. Send us your ideas for what you think we should go down there and look around for. We'll do our best to find it. You can also email us again at thestory@kgw.com. And right now is a pretty good time to send those in, because after the break, we're going to read some comments. But look, before we go, I don't know if you were watching earlier this week when a viewer wrote in about a guy in Almsville with a Buzz Lightyear collection. Well, let's just say he wasn't lying. Dan, I really like your show, but how about talking about more stuff in areas of the state besides just Portland? The rest of us have cool stories as well. For instance, there's a cool guy in Almsville who collects Buzz Lightyears. Humbly submitted. Just a thought. Gus, my man, no need to be humble. That is a great story. I want to know a lot more about this guy. Something tells me it's you. Like, has he been collecting since the very first movie, or did he get involved several movies in? Is he an ex-Pixar executive, maybe? Does he have a kid, or is the collection all his own? I have a lot of questions, and Gus, I hate to disappoint you, but tonight I don't have a lot of those answers. All right, well, I can't tell you I have those answers now, and they are keeping Almsville weird tonight. Gus Bedwell, true to his word on Tuesday's show, indeed knew a guy with a Buzz Lightyear collection. That guy just so happened to be him, and he has photos to prove it. Toy Story hit theaters in 1993. He told me he's been collecting since 1995. It started on a road trip from Texas to the Northwest when he stopped with his wife at McDonald's for every meal on their 2.5-day journey up here. They ordered a Happy Meal every time they wanted to get the toys. He says he still has the Buzz toys, and the wife, actually, Kimberly, of 26 years. Now, Gus has more than 500 toys all over his house. That, people, is how it's done. Never go halfway, all right? If you're going to do something, do it big. If you're keeping Almsville weird, or Portland, or Vancouver, or anywhere, let us know. Use that hashtag HeyDan, or email us at thestory@kgw.com. We started kind of teasing that story at the very beginning of the show, and Gus hit me up on Facebook, and he said, hey, you rock, my friend. Thank you for showing off the Buzz Lightyear collection. You definitely got a friend in me. And I told him, hey, stick around. We're going to do a bigger story at the end of the show. He said, awesome. My family is so embarrassed. This makes my dad heart glow with pride. Man, I'm happy to embarrass your family. Great. As you know, that You Got a Friend in Me, I kind of started off the show singing that. And Judy wrote in and said, hey, Dan, don't sing. It's not becoming. And we have your back for what's becoming. To that I say, thank you for being with us tonight. The story is back tomorrow. The news at 6:30 is next.